You probably killed one of the most useful plants in your yard without ever learning its name. Maybe you pulled it from a crack in the path. Maybe you sprayed it along the fence because the lawn was finally starting to look clean. Maybe you ran the mower over it, watched the leaves disappear, and felt that small satisfaction every gardener knows. Good, one less weed. But here is the uncomfortable part. Some of those weeds were once food, field medicine, wound care, bitter tonic, mineral support, and survival knowledge. Not because they were magical or because they replaced doctors, but because they carry real chemistry. Tannins, mucilage, flavonoids, organic acids, volatile oils, minerals, and plant compounds that researchers still examine for antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and skin-supporting activity. And many of them are not rare. They grow behind garages, under fruit trees, beside compost piles, near fences, and in the exact patches of lawn people keep trying to sterilize. The tragedy is not that these plants disappeared. The tragedy is that we forgot their names. And if that sounds dramatic, think about it this way. You can pay for dried herbs in a little brown bag, then spend the afternoon killing the same kind of plant family outside your back door. Not because you are foolish, because nobody gave you the map. Nobody stopped beside a cracked sidewalk and said, "This one has a story. This one has chemistry. This one was remembered for a reason." Before we go further, let us keep this safe and honest. This video is for education and general interest only. These plants have histories in traditional use, and some have compounds being studied today, but they are not replacements for antibiotics, medical diagnosis, emergency care, or prescribed treatment. If you have fever, infection, deep wounds, pregnancy, kidney disease, liver disease, allergies, chronic illness, or you take medication, talk with a qualified professional. Never harvest from sprayed lawns, roadsides, dog areas, industrial soil, public parks with unknown chemicals, or anywhere you do not fully trust. A useful plant growing in dirty ground is not medicine. It is a risk. Let us begin with plantain. Not the banana-like fruit, the flat green weed that grows in lawns, paths, driveways, and hard-packed soil. You may have stepped on it hundreds of times. Its leaves sit low to the ground, with strong ribs running from base to tip. Pull one apart, and you can sometimes see those fibres stretch like tiny green cords. Plantain grows where feet go. Fresh leaves were crushed and placed on minor insect bites, stings, scratches, and irritated skin. It was not fancy. It was not sold in a golden bottle. It was the kind of plant a person could find 5 steps from the door. A deep cut or animal bite still belongs with a medical professional, but the old reputation starts to make sense. And once you learn plantain, something changes. You stop seeing blank grass. You start seeing a map. Now, dandelion. Everybody knows dandelion, which is exactly why almost nobody respects it. The root is hated because it snaps, stays underground, and returns as if the plant took the whole thing personally. But that stubborn root is part of the story. Dandelion leaves were eaten as bitter spring greens. The flowers were used in syrups and fritters. The roots were dried, roasted, and brewed into a dark, bitter drink when coffee was expensive or hard to get. Dandelion root contains inulin, a prebiotic fibre that may feed beneficial gut bacteria in some people. The leaves contain minerals, including potassium, and the bitter compounds help explain why it appears in traditional digestion support formulas. Researchers have studied dandelion extracts for antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial potential. A cup of tea is not an antibiotic, and lab research is not the same as treating infection in a human body. Still, the plant is far more interesting than a lawn care advertisement wants you to believe. Dandelion may also interact with diuretics, lithium, diabetes medication, blood thinners, and other drugs, so people with gallbladder, kidney, liver, or daisy family allergy issues need care. The lesson is not use dandelion for everything. The lesson is sharper. The plant you keep fighting may have a longer history than your lawn. Now chickweed. Chickweed is easy to overlook because it does not look dramatic. Small leaves, soft stems, tiny white flowers, a green mat in cool weather, tucked into damp corners, garden beds, and places where soil has been disturbed. It looks fragile, but old household traditions valued chickweed as a cooling, soothing plant. It was used externally for itchy, irritated, dry, or hot-feeling skin. It was also eaten as a tender spring green in small amounts when properly identified and gathered from clean soil. Chickweed contains saponins, flavonoids, and soothing mucilage-like qualities. It does not sting like nettle or shout like garlic. It whispers. Chickweed's old value was softness, a gentle green, a cooling leaf, a plant for small discomforts, not grand promises. Identification matters here. Chickweed has lookalikes, and not every small green plant is safe. Then there is stinging nettle. Nettle does not ask for attention, it takes it. Touch it carelessly, and the tiny hairs on its leaves and stems inject irritating compounds into your skin. A sharp sting, a hot spark, a quick lesson you remember. Most people meet nettle once and avoid it for the rest of their lives. But handled correctly, nettle becomes one of the most respected wild greens in traditional food and herbal practice. When cooked, dried, or properly prepared, the sting disappears. People use nettle in soups, teas, spring tonics, and mineral-rich foods. It contains iron, magnesium, calcium, potassium, and other nutrients. It has been studied for anti-inflammatory effects, urinary support, and allergy-related uses. The paradox is perfect. Raw, it punishes you. Prepared, it can nourish you. Fire changes the plant. Drying changes the plant. Handling changes everything. Nettle may interact with blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, diuretics, lithium, blood thinners, and other drugs, and people with kidney problems should be cautious. Now yarrow. Yarrow looks delicate at first, feathery leaves, pale flowers, a soft meadow shape. But its reputation is not soft. Yarrow has a long association with wounds and bleeding. Its Latin name, Achillea millefolium, points to Achilles, the warrior of Greek legend. Myth or memory, the message is clear. People connected yarrow with battlefield care long before modern first aid kits. Traditionally, crushed yarrow was used on minor cuts. It also appeared in teas for feverish states and digestion. The plant contains tannins, flavonoids, volatile oils, and compounds studied for anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and astringent activity. That helps explain why yarrow became linked with minor bleeding. Heavy bleeding, deep wounds, punctures, animal bites, or infections still need medical care, not a meadow experiment. Yarrow may also trigger ragweed family allergies, interact with blood thinners or sedatives, and should not be used casually during pregnancy. Yarrow teaches a hard lesson. A gentle-looking flower can carry a serious history, and serious history deserves respect. Now, self-heal. Even the name makes you stop. Self-heal. Heal all. Prunella vulgaris. It is a modest little plant, often with purple flower spikes, growing low in lawns, meadows, and edges. Many people mow it down without ever knowing it had a name. But those old names tell you something. People do not call a plant heal-all because it looks impressive. They call it that because it earned a reputation. Traditionally, self-heal was used for sore throats, minor wounds, mouth irritation, and household care. Modern research has studied Prunella vulgaris for antiviral, antimicrobial, antioxidant, and anti-inflammatory properties in lab settings. It contains rosmarinic acid, ursolic acid, flavonoids, and other plant chemicals that make researchers pay attention. But a nickname is not medical proof. Heal all does not mean it heals all. It means the plant was important enough for people to remember boldly. It hides in plain sight, a tiny purple clue in the lawn. Now purslane. Purslane crawls low across hot soil, with reddish stems and thick little succulent leaves. Gardeners often pull it from vegetable beds because it spreads quickly and looks too much like a nuisance to be trusted. But purslane is edible when correctly identified, and in some food cultures it is not a weed at all. It has a tart, juicy bite and is unusually rich in omega-3 fatty acids for a leafy plant, especially alpha-linolenic acid. It also contains antioxidants, minerals and plant pigments. Researchers have studied purslane for antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial and metabolic effects. Extracts in studies are not the same as eating a handful from the garden, but purslane is not empty green matter. It is a survival plant, juicy in heat, low to the soil, built to endure. It contains oxalates, so people prone to kidney stones should be careful, and it must not be confused with spurge, a milky sap look-alike that is not a food plant. Now cleavers. Cleavers are almost impossible to ignore once they grab you. They cling to your socks, your sleeves, your dog's fur, your pants. The plant is covered with tiny hook-like hairs that make it stick like green Velcro. But cleavers, also called Gallium aperine, has a history as a spring cleansing herb, especially in traditional use connected with lymphatic support and urinary flow. The plant has been used in teas, fresh juices and external washes. It contains iridoid glycosides, flavonoids, tannins and other compounds, and some research on Gallium species has explored antimicrobial and antioxidant activities. Its behaviour is the memorable part. It clings, travels by contact, and hitches rides on animals and people. That sense of movement may have helped people remember it as a plant connected with fluids and flow. People with kidney problems, pregnancy, or medication use should be cautious. Now ground elder. Ground elder makes gardeners tired just thinking about it. It spreads underground through rhizomes. Pull one piece and another appears. Leave a fragment behind and it returns. In many gardens it becomes a long argument between human and root. But before ground elder became a villain in flower beds, it had food and medicinal history. Its young leaves were eaten as spring greens. One old name is goutweed, because it was historically associated with gout remedies. In parts of Europe, monks and medieval gardeners are often linked with its spread because it was useful as a pot herb. Young leaves can be cooked like spinach when properly identified. Older leaves become stronger, tougher and less pleasant. Research on ground elder has examined antioxidant and antimicrobial potential. The plant contains polyacetylines, flavonoids and other compounds. But the deeper story is abundance. The same underground persistence that makes gardeners curse also made it available as spring food. The nuisance and the value can come from the same trait. Ground elder teaches context. In one place it is food, in another it is a problem. Now sheep sorrel. Sheep sorrel is small, sharp and sour. Its leaves carry a tangy bite because of oxalic acid. You may find it in poor soil, acidic ground, fields, disturbed places and thin patches where more demanding plants do not thrive. Its reddish seed heads can tint a field with a rusty colour. Traditionally, sorrels were eaten in small amounts as sour greens. Sheep sorrel also appears in folk herbal formulas and contains vitamin C, flavonoids and phenolic compounds. Researchers have studied rumex species for antioxidant and antimicrobial activity. But the sour taste is also a warning. Oxalic acid can be a problem for people prone to kidney stones, kidney disease, gout concerns, or those told to reduce oxalates. Large amounts are not wise. This is why taste matters.
Sour is not just flavour, it is information. Bitter tells you one thing, sour tells you another, astringent tells you something else. Old plant users paid attention to taste because taste was a clue. Modern processed food trains us to chase sweetness and salt until we stop hearing the smaller signals. Wood sorrel is often mistaken for clover, but its leaves are heart-shaped and delicate, folding like tiny green umbrellas. Depending on the species, its flowers may be white, yellow, or pink. The taste is lemony and sour. Children who grow up outside often discover it by accident. One little leaf, a bright acidic spark, and suddenly the plant is remembered forever. Wood sorrel has been used as a trail nibble and sour green in small amounts. Like sheep sorrel, it contains oxalic acid, which gives that tart flavour and may provide vitamin C and other plant acids. But the same warning applies. People with kidney stones, kidney disease, or oxalate restrictions should avoid or limit it. Large amounts are not safe. Wood sorrel is not a salad bowl plant. It is a tiny, sour accent. Some plants are useful only in small amounts. The dose is not a boring detail. It is the difference between food and trouble. Now Creeping Charlie. Creeping Charlie, also known as ground ivy, spreads low through lawns and shady, damp places. It roots at the nodes, crawls along the ground, and seems to appear everywhere once it settles in. Homeowners hate it. But historically, Creeping Charlie had a life before lawn sprays. Before hops became dominant in beer making, ground ivy was used in ale for bitterness and preservation. That alone tells us people valued its aromatic, bitter compounds. It also appears in traditional herbal use for coughs and digestion. The plant contains volatile oils, tannins, flavonoids and bitter compounds, and some studies have explored antimicrobial and antioxidant activity. It can be toxic to some animals, especially horses, and may cause problems if eaten in large amounts, so internal use should not be casual. Still, the reversal is powerful. Before it was sprayed, it was brewed. Now step back and look at the whole group. Cleavers, ground elder, self-heal, sheep sorrel, wood sorrel, plantain, dandelion, purslane, chickweed, stinging nettle, yarrow, and creeping Charlie. Some cling, some sting, some crawl, some sour the tongue, some soothe skin. Some were eaten, brewed, crushed onto bites, or linked with wounds, digestion, urinary support, minerals, and old household care. And many contain compounds researchers continue to examine: tannins, mucilage, flavonoids, organic acids, volatile oils, iridoids, inulin, polyphenols, minerals, and plant pigments. But here is where we keep the title honest. These plants are not stronger than antibiotics in the reckless way people online like to shout. An antibiotic is a medical tool for specific bacterial infections used with professional guidance. These plants do not replace that, but some contain antimicrobial compounds, some were used before modern antibiotics existed, and some may help explain why traditional plant knowledge survived for centuries. That is the safer meaning of the title, not throw away your medicine, never. The meaning is stop assuming every weed is worthless. Now imagine a normal backyard. A person sees dandelion and pulls it. Plantain gets mowed. Chickweed gets scraped away. Purslane goes into the trash. Nettle is avoided. Yarrow is not recognised. Ground elder gets cursed under the breath. Creeping Charlie gets sprayed. The plants were there. The names were missing. And when the name is missing, the value disappears. 1 minute it is a weed. The next minute it is plantain, a ribbed leaf with a long skincare tradition. 1 minute it is a nuisance. The next minute it is purslane, an edible green with unusual omega-3 content. 1 minute it is a sting. The next minute it is nettle, a mineral-rich spring food when handled correctly. If you want to begin safely, do not start by eating anything. Start by identifying. Choose one plant, plantain maybe, or dandelion, or chickweed. Learn it through the seasons.
leaves, flowers, stem, sap, smell, habitat, and dangerous lookalikes. Use a reliable local guide. Compare several features. Ask an experienced forager if you can. Do not learn 12 weeds in one afternoon and make a wild salad. That is not wisdom. That is gambling. Then ask where the plant grew. This matters as much as the name. A dandelion from a sprayed lawn is not clean food. A plant beside a busy road may carry pollutants. A weed from a dog path is not something you want in your tea. Now we reach the deeper reason these plants matter. They blur the line between food, medicine, and survival. Dandelion was food and bitter tonic. Plantain was skin care and pathweed. Nettle was sting and soup. Yarrow was meadow flower and wound herb. Purslane was garden invader and vegetable. Ground elder was nuisance and spring green. Creeping Charlie was lawn problem and old brewing herb. The same plant can be friend or enemy, depending on where it grows, who is using it, and what they know. A plant can be edible and still risky for some people. It can contain antimicrobial compounds and still fail to treat infection. It can be traditional and still require caution. It can be common and still valuable. All of that can be true at once. Now let us ask why weeds are often chemically interesting. Many of them are survivors. Dandelion stores energy in a deep root. Nettle defends itself with stinging hairs. Purslane holds water in heat. Cleavers clings and travels. Ground elder spreads underground. Creeping Charlie roots as it crawls. Plantain tolerates compacted soil. Yarrow survives rough conditions. These survival strategies often come with chemistry, bitter compounds, antioxidants, stored energy, or chemicals that affect pests and microbes. Now, which of the 12 is the most underestimated? Dandelion is famous even when hated. Nettle is memorable because it stings. Plantain is easy to learn once someone points it out. Yarrow has a battlefield reputation. But self-heal might be the quiet champion because most people never notice it. It sits low in the lawn, purple and modest, mowed down before it can be recognized. Yet the old names, self-heal and heal-all, show that people once gave it a reputation much larger than its size. Modern research has explored its antiviral, antimicrobial, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties in lab settings, including compounds like rosmarinic acid and ursolic acid. The most overlooked plant may not be hidden in the wilderness. It may be the one you have seen 100 times and never named. So after this video, do not rush outside with a basket. Just look. Look at the cracks in the path, the low rosettes in the lawn, the sour little leaves near the fence, the sticky stems on your socks, the yellow flower you are about to pull, the soft chickweed mat, the red-stemmed purslane crawling through heat, and the nettle patch you avoid. Do not touch what you do not know. Do not eat what you cannot identify. Do not use wild plants instead of medical care. But look, that is where old plant knowledge begins. Attention, then a name, then careful study, then respect. Not fear, not blind trust. Respect. These 12 weeds are not here to replace medicine. They are here to remind you that the world under your feet is not as empty as you were taught. The backyard is not just grass and problems. It is a living map. Some plants you remove, some you leave for insects, some you learn, some you never touch. Some you may one day use carefully if they are clean, correctly identified, and right for you. The biggest change is not in the plant, it is in you. You stop seeing weeds as one ugly category. You begin to see stories. Plantain near the path, dandelion in the lawn, purslane in the heat,
nettle in the wild corner, yarrow in the dry meadow, self-heal hiding in plain sight. And once you see them, the yard is no longer just a yard. Now tell me in the comments, which of these 12 weeds grows near you, and which one surprised you the most? Plantain, dandelion, nettle, purslane, yarrow, self-heal, or creeping Charlie? And if you want more videos about useful plants people keep pulling, mowing and killing without understanding them, subscribe to the channel, because the next plant may already be growing right outside your door.